So, this is the second of four quizzes that are in this section. Um, and it's probably, not even probably, it's the most complicated out of all of them. But it's really not that bad. If you're okay with using formulas, then you'll be golden. And it's all about just can you apply the formula properly. So we're going to be talking about what's called arc length and sector area. So, just so you guys, in case you forgot, the distance all the way around a circle, that's called the circumference. Boom, that's a circle. The circumference is equal to d times pi. Um, and d stands for diameter. And remember, the diameter is all the way across, through the middle. So, something like that, right? Or sometimes it's written as 2 times radius times pi. That's just, you know, the diameter is always 2 times the radius. So that's really just saying the same thing twice. Just sometimes you're given the radius, sometimes you're given the diameter. And in case you didn't know, pi is equal to about 3.141529, yada, 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 forever and ever and ever, because it's an irrational number. Technically, what it is always is the circumference divided by the diameter. So for every circle in the whole world, no matter what, if you found the length, I'm pointing and you can't see what I'm pointing at. If you divide this distance around a circle by the length of its diameter, you'll always get 3.14, yada, 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 every single time. So let's say I gave you this circle and said, hey, look, this is 6 inches. All you'd have to do is circumference equals 2 times 6 times pi. So in a calculator, you can do 2 times 6 times pi. There is a handy-dandy pi button on most calculators right there. Pi. So you just do 2 times 6 times pi. And you'll get 37.7 basically. I don't think I have autofocus on my camera, which is probably not a good thing, but oh no, autofocus is on. Anyway, 2 times 6 times pi. So you have two things you can do. You can literally just leave that as 12 pi. That is fine. In fact, when you get into future math classes, they probably prefer you to leave it as 12 pi. You could multiply it out and get 37.7. That's also fine. Round it just to 1 decimal place. But make sure if you're rounding, you do it properly. If it's a 5 and above the number behind it, you round up. If it's 4 below, you keep it the same. So just remember, you can have rounding errors if you do it this way. And I will mark you, I'll take a little bit of points off, not tons, but it's possible. So if I wrote AC, that means arc length of AC, which is different than what we were doing before when I had the M arc. The measure of the arc means degrees. You're looking for how many degrees something is. That's why it says measure. If there's no M there, I'm literally looking for how long, if I were to like put a string around that arc, how long the arc is. And there's a formula you've got to know, and I'll talk about it more in a little bit, but it's angle divided by 360 times 2 times r times pi, or times radius times diameter times pi. So AC, I don't want to find this whole thing. You know, I could just do 2 times radius times pi, and that would tell me everything, right? If I did 2 times radius times pi, I would get the whole length. I only want from here to here. I'm literally just looking for how long is that arc. So if you think about it, and I'm pretty sure some of you are right now, this whole thing is 2 times r times pi, which would be 2 times 8 times pi. But this is just 1/4 of it. So a lot of you, I'm pretty sure, would have just said, oh, let's just do 8 times pi and then cut it. Find 1/4 of it and divide it by 4, and you would be right. And that's really what we're doing every time. Instead of doing 360 out of 360 degrees, which would be the whole thing, we're only going 90 degrees out of 360, which is why it's 90 over 360. And this is how you put it into a calculator. Times 2 times 4 times pi. And you get 6.3 is your answer. Okay. So once again, if I were to write the formula out, basically how you're thinking of this is from here to here is only 90 degrees. So if you're just writing out the formula, 90, instead of a full circle, which is 360, times 2 times radius times pi. And that's what this is. This is just the calculator version. Okay, and that's really it. So 2 times radius times pi, and then it's angle over 360 because you went 90 degrees out of the total of 360 degrees. If I wanted A, B, C, that's if I went the opposite direction. This way, all you'd have to do is find out how many degrees is A, B, C, which is 360 minus that 90, which is 270, which gives us 270 over 360 times 2 times 4 times pi. And then I can start giving you word problems with the stew. It's all going to be this formula. You can get a C on this quiz just by using this formula and being able to find circumference. If you walked 20 miles part way around a circle with a radius of 7 miles, how many degrees did you walk? So basically what it's saying is there's a circle, right? We know it has a radius of 7. Boom, boom. And you started walking around it, and then you stopped. So you're like, let's go for a walk. Except I didn't change the color. Let's go for a walk. Da, 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 blah, 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 blah. Hey, look, I walked 20 miles. And then you stopped. I'm asking, basically, what is this angle right here? How many degrees around the circle did you walk? So, basically, we have this formula. You're just plugging it in. Angle over 360. We don't know what the angle is. That's why it's x over 360 times 2 times 7, because that's the radius, times pi. We know this equals to 20. I don't like having this 360 there. I don't want to have a fraction. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 360. And this is where we got to be very, 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 very careful. The reason we multiply by 360 is so these two cancel out. Nothing else happens. So we have x, and I just said 2 times 7 is 14, equal x times 14 pi equals 7,200. Now we're going to divide by 14 pi, and this is very, very, very important. I put this in a calculator for a reason. Calculators are very cool. They do whatever you want them to do. So this is what if I put this in without a parenthesis, it's using order of operations, PEMDAS, which is it goes from left to right. So what this is doing is 7,200. It's dividing that by 14, and then it's taking that answer and multiplying by pi. We get 1,615 degrees, which is a huge number. So you've got to put that 14 pi in parentheses. And we get 163.7 degrees. So just be careful. 163.7 degrees. Okay, and that is arc length. So arc length is finding how far around a circle you're going, given an angle and a radius. And then you could solve for different things. Okay, that's part 1. Oh no, you're seeing everything. Why? Why? Boom. Boom, 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 boom. This is going to be a long set of notes. But, like I said, it's the most complicated part. Alright, sectors is part 2 of this. And it's basically the same quiz, because it's mostly the same, actually. There's just going to be a difference. It's going to be similar to our last formula. The difference is that we're talking about area now. Sectors has to do with area, which is r squared pi. And sometimes people just say pi r squared. I like to put the pi at the end so you can leave it in terms of pi. So area of a circle is r squared pi. So right, the area means I want the whole inside of this circle. I don't want the distance around. I'm looking for how much it takes to fill up that whole circle. And just as a note, if I had a rectangle that's 3 by 2, this has a area and area of 6 centimeters squared, which literally means if I cut this into little centimeter boxes, there's literally 6, whoa, what was that, Eric? 6 boxes that are each a square centimeter. So when I say centimeter squared, that literally means a square that's a centimeter by centimeter, and there's 6 of them. Area always is squared when you do that. So meters squared, feet squared, or you can say it square feet or square meters, which is more common. And so it's very important that you realize that area is always squared. So because people mix up the two formulas. Sometimes they'll say 2r pi is area, not circumference. So the one with the exponent is always area. So if I wanted to find the area of this circle, it's literally just 4 squared times pi, which is 16 pi centimeters squared. Or if you put this in a calculator, you get 50.3 centimeters squared. And what I'm trying to point out here is that since you squared it in the formula, you have to have that centimeter squared. If you put 50.3 centimeters, I would mark you off because that's square centimeters. That's important. Okay, if the area equals 51 square feet, what is the radius? Put it in the formula. Area equals r squared pi. 51 is the area equals r squared pi. Divide both sides by pi. You get 16.23 equals r squared, and then the opposite of squaring something is square rooting it. Boom, 4.03 equals the radius. So just always remember, if I'm asking you for something slightly different, you could just plug it into the formula, and you're working backwards. Sectors. So a sector is the area of a shaded region. So it's basically what we were doing before, except for with area. So that's why I'm saying when I said, look, similar to our last formula. It's because it's angle over 360, but instead of 2r pi, it's r squared pi. So it looks different. I'll have a little shaded part and say, find the area of that sector. But it's mostly the same thing, except for it's r squared pi instead of 2r pi. So literally 60 over 360 times 12 squared pi, which equals 75.4. Once again, in a calculator, you do 60 divided by 360, 12 squared pi. Whoa. So 60 over 360, 12 squared pi. You can put it all in the calculator at once, 75.4. That's what's kind of nice about these questions is the calculator's doing almost all the work as long as you can just use the formula. On this question, it's a little bit different because I want this huge shaded area there. So you got to do 360 minus 45 to get 315 degrees. So all the way around this way is 315 degrees. Now just use the formula. 315 divided by 360 times 8 squared times pi. Calculator, 315 divided by 360 times 8 squared times pi. And you get 175.9 square meters. Done. So, those are 2 formulas you've got to know. Once you know the formulas, though, plugging them in isn't too bad. For an A++, you're going to have to be able to do a little bit more than that. But it's all based off of those formulas. So it's not too bad, I don't think. Cool.